Hello, everybody, and welcome to our guest masterclass with Trina Lucas. I'm so happy about this. This is so exciting for me. I've known Trina for over 20 years now, and somewhere along the way, early in the piece, when we were working together, I thought, there's going to come a time when I'm going to be telling people, you have to meet this amazing woman. You have to work with this amazing woman. And she's going to be like totally booked out. And I just knew, like, Trina didn't believe me at the time, but yes, anyway, 'tis true. And she is marvelous. And I particularly wanted to mention why I find her work so relevant to the Soul Priestess, because in last week's calls with the Soul Priestessing, I really spoke about the fact that we are in such an individualized time of finding our mission, our path, our purpose, our full expression of our gifts, and that this requires an extraordinary amount of self-discipline and an extraordinary amount of self-work to be in relationship with the self through finding how do I find my relationship to myself, my soul, my spirit, my inner being. And Trina is the total embodiment of this. She's self-taught in a lot of ways. She's a Chinese medicine practitioner, but her relationship with the spiritual worlds has been through self-evaluation and self-exploration, and in a very, very rigorous and intelligent and disciplined way. And so she's like she's a bit of a pin-up girl for how to be a soul priestess. And without any further ado, I will introduce her as psychic spiritual healer and gifted visionary into the spiritual realms. And she's going to talk to us about meeting our spirit guides and why that is so important. And I guess the whole structure of soul and spirit. So Trina, I'm going to unmute you. I'm going to click onto your video and I'll just unmute you and take it away.
Hello, can you all hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, great. All right. Hi, everybody. I'm excited to speak to fellow priestesses today, you who are on the exciting journey of discovering your goddess within. And I'm really excited to have the opportunity to talk to you about the relevance of spirit guides when it comes to your priestess journey. So I have some notes in my lap that I'm going to be looking down at every now and then, so please forgive me for doing that. But there are some really salient points I want to make sure that I cover, and I don't want to get too distracted from that. So aside from being a psychic spiritual healer, self-taught, I work with a team of healing spirits that specialize in all sorts of things. And I've been doing that for almost 2 decades now. I also specialize in soul anatomy, I call it. And basically my spirit healer team that I work with when I'm consulting with clients, they have taught me an incredible framework for being able to understand the relationships between earth and soul, spirit, and us as human beings, and basically, how our soul and our spirit express through the anatomy of our physical body and through our identity as a human being, and the architecture and mechanisms through which that occurs, so that we have the potential to mirror below what we are above, so to speak. Now, I don't necessarily believe that it's so above and below, but we have to use some kind of way of understanding these things. So I'm psychic, and I always feel a bit strange when I say I'm psychic. Psychicness runs in my family. It hasn't been used in my family for a little while. My dad's great grandmother was psychic. She was the last one to use it. But basically what that means for me is that I have a sensory capacity that is above and beyond just the everyday sensory capacity I'm using as I'm moving through the world. I'm able to receive images. My spirit guides communicate very clearly with me, and they communicate with me in many different ways, but one of the ways that they communicate with me is through my internal voice. And I just wanted to speak about that just for a moment, because I feel that it's really relevant to the journey that you are all on at the moment. And in retrospect, one of the first times I heard my spirit guide was when I was 18 years of age, and I jumped into my car and I was driving down to the local shop. And when I jumped into my car, something inside of me said, close the passenger side door. And as my mind was arguing with this voice, close the passenger side door, my body was in and of itself just reaching over and closing the passenger side door. And then I pulled out of my driveway and I stopped at an intersection, and this man came out of nowhere and he tried to get into the passenger side door and get into my car. And he was a very scary looking man. And that was the first time that I realized that my guides use my inner voice, right? And I always thought that the inner voice would sound different to my voice, Trina, right? So Dominique, when she speaks, she has a beautiful speaking voice, of course. And when she speaks, her voice sounds different to mine, right? But my guide's voice doesn't sound different to mine. It sounds the same. And I learnt after a while that the way for me to determine whether the voice that I could hear internally was coming from my stuff, like my pain, my conditioning, or whether it was coming from my soul wisdom, or whether it was coming from my instinct, my intuition, which is slightly different, or whether it was coming from my thoughts, or whether it was coming from my guide, which is my direct link to source, that it is the frequency that's slightly different. And that's what helps me to be able to determine where it's coming from. So voice is an incredible part of of being able to form a relationship with our internal soul and spirit. As Dominique said, I have a Bachelor of Health Science in traditional Chinese medicine. I began working as a psychic spiritual healer about 2 decades ago. And I'm literally in communication with spirit guides all the time, even in my everyday life. And I'm extremely passionate about helping people understand that the soul is in and of the body. Absolutely in and of the body. And I can't emphasize that enough. Our body is a vehicle for our soul to develop, grow, and learn. It is the vehicle through which our soul has the opportunity to do that. And your soul is the vehicle that delivers the light of your spirit into your life force. And I know that for some people, sorry, I'm just checking my notes here. So I understand that for some people, probably not you beautiful priestesses, because you're engaged in this journey, but some people think that spirit is something really separate to the material reality. And I experience that and know that to really not be so. Spirit is something that is not just on the periphery. Spirit is not something that we need to leave our body and go out somewhere in order to form a connection with it. Our soul helps mediate the delivery of our spirit into our being. And just because some people, choose to believe that spirit isn't real, it doesn't mean that it isn't a fundamental part of our life every single day. So spirit guides is what I'm here to talk to you all about today. So you are all deep in the priestess process. You have been meeting priestess presences, interacting with incredible spirits such as Mary Magdalene and Aphrodite, and have been activating the goddess connection within using the sacred instrument of voice and sound. And I'm really excited to help you understand how your own personal spirit guide can support you in that process. When you engage in the priestess process, then you make a commitment to transformation. And as we know, the process of transformation, it can undulate. It can have its highs, it can have its lows. In the process of transformation, especially you had been finding out through meeting Aphrodite, because she has this incredible ability to help us to be able to see many different faces of self. And sometimes through engaging in her light and her transformational spirit light, we find faces that we're not so comfortable with, right? That are confronting, that and then sometimes we find faces that are of self that are just incredible and so juicy, and we're so excited to meet them. And let's face it, they're the faces that we all want to meet. And our spirit guide, when we willingly and with humility call them into our world, they can help us really navigate that process. I just want to get a little bit of clarity around these terms: source, soul, spirit, and so on, just quickly at the beginning here. So I choose to use the word source, and I choose to use the word source because to me, source embodies the concept that it is a point of origin. You know, like similar words to the word source might be Tao, or they might be God, not universe. Universe is something different, but source is the point of origin. I interchangeably use it with the word spirit and light, because source, spirit, and light are essentially the same thing. Source is the source of spirit. Okay, now we all individually have a spirit, okay, and that spirit is a unique alchemical vibration combination coming together of source light, all right, and that spirit is our blueprint. That is the light that we are individually striving to grow into, okay? Now, the vehicle through which we grow into our spirit is our soul, all right? And our soul and spirit are in source, wherever that may be. I'm going to use the analogy of it being above, but I'm not going to get into that, but I'm not necessarily sure that is so. But our soul and spirit are there. We bring a piece of our soul into our body to have a human experience, so that piece of our soul, if we think of, it's not quite this simple, but if we think of our soul as being like a jigsaw puzzle, and each piece of that jigsaw puzzle is trying to become an exact replica of that piece of our spirit. I've drawn a picture for that I might get Dominique to post later. But so we bring a piece of our soul into our body, and that is called our higher self. The piece of our soul we bring into our body is our higher self, and we have access to that higher self in the body. And then we have a source connection channel that supports us to be able to connect with the totality of our soul spirit and where it exists up in source. And that source connection channel connects up and through to source, and that source connection channel also anchors us into the earth. And through that source connection channel, we get to have the greater, I call it our greater soul spirit light, delivered into our body. So back to, and if you have any questions about that, there will be time at the end to ask those questions, and by all means do so. I realise that this is, they're pretty big concepts. So your spirit guide is really keen to support you in all facets of your life, especially your individual journey, your individual unique journey of awakening your own soul wisdom in your human body, to express through your material body and through your human nature, your human identity of self. And to gain benefits from from calling in your spirit guide, you don't have to, have a capacity for psychicness like I have. I didn't even discover my psychicness, as I said, until I was a lot later in life. But you don't have to be interested in being psychic. You don't have to have an incredibly well-developed intuitive channel or any of those things to gain benefit from calling in your spirit guide. All right. So our spirit guides, they're waiting patiently to be involved in our process. All right. And sometimes I literally see them waiting. I literally see them sort of waiting. Sometimes they give me these really dramatic images of them waiting, like, I'm waiting. And they kind of do that because they're often very playful. They give me funny images sometimes because it lightens my vibration and enables me to be able to step into connecting with them much faster. And your spirit guide is a master of all things spirit. All right. So spirit is their domain. For us as humans, the domain of spirit is always going to have an element of mystery to it. All right. The priestess process shows us through the allegory of ancient stories how you can meet the mysteries of spirit to help you find a glimpse of what spirit is. And to help you gain a glimpse of the variety of ways that spirit can be enacted through your body and through your identity of self, okay? So your spirit guide is an expert in being you, all right? Your spirit guide has a lived experience of expressing the qualities that are inherent as gifts and abilities in your own soul, the qualities that you are working on in this life to bring into embodiment. Your spirit guide is a master of that. They are uniquely placed to specifically help you, and everybody has a spirit guide. So there are 4 particular benefits of spirit guides that I want to communicate to you guys today that are relevant specifically. Well, they're relevant generally, but specifically to the soul priestess journey. The first is holding space, all right? So your spirit guide holds space for you. They literally hold space through, in, around you, enshrine you in their light, and they illuminate through you the biggest picture possible of who and what you truly are. Who and what you truly are on all levels of being: physical, psychological, mental, emotional, astral, soul, spirit, through all levels of being, across all divides, through all dimensions. Okay, your spirit guide holds the space of the bigger picture knowing of who and what you are, right? Who and what you are as a human, and who and what you are as greater than being a human, all right? And with their presence in your life, right? When you willingly, with humility, go, oh my God, I know that there's no way I can possibly understand everything that there is to know about spirit, because none of us can. And you invite them into your world, then they hold presence for you to be everything that you can possibly be in this life. And that's pretty amazing, yeah? I mean, that's incredible. It's beautiful. It's an incredible, gift that they're able to give us. So the infinite light of source joins together with the finite materials of earth, and a human being is created. Yeah? And just back to my notes there. And as a human being, you as a human being are a vehicle for your soul to live out the true potential of what the coming together of infinite source light and finite earth materials, the coming together, what can be achieved through the coming together of those, all right? So much potential, so many permutations and combinations of how light and matter can join together and create, all right? And our soul and our spirit want to be co-creators in that. So holding space is important for that reason. Now, holding space is important for a second reason as well, all right? Holding space is important because being able to hold source light in your body, okay, in order to administer it to yourself and or administer it in the aid of assisting other people, whether it be, like Alice with her ukulele, Dominique with her voice, or, with whatever tools you're using, to be able to hold source light. That is a really big thing, okay, to be able to do that. And spirit light is mind-blowingly transformational, okay? Mind-blowingly transformational. It is inherently transformational. So it's necessary for us for a human being to develop a skill set around being able to hold light if we're going to infuse it into the tools that we offer, that we uniquely offer as individuals. Mine is as a psychic spiritual healer, yours will be different, to be able to hold that light and have it infuse what we're doing. And now, no one develops that skill set overnight, right? It takes time to develop that skill set. So our spirit guide, they hold space for us. They hold that for us, okay? And then they slowly hand it over to us piece by piece as we mature in being able to take that role on more of ourself, okay? And when we, with humility and willingness, call in our spirit guide, then they help us to be able to hold the right quality and quantity of light that is necessary for the purposes of which we are using it, whether that be to support self or to support others, all right? And when we're on the journey of, I know that, okay, so you're in the priestess journey at the moment, you're meeting with Aphrodite, for instance, and sometimes that transformational light can just kind of just be so strong, it's sort of like, it can kind of blow our circuits, Sometimes that happens to me. I'm doing healings with somebody and it's just, really, really big and kind of my circuits blow a little bit and I feel quite scattered. And I can go afterwards and I can remember to use, what tools I have available to me, and I can call on my spirit guide and they can help pull my pieces back together and help bring me back to a unity and help me to dispel the excess light that I don't need in my body at that particular moment. I don't need that when I'm hanging the washing on the line. I don't need that when I'm talking to my mum on the phone, although sometimes I would quite like it. So they support us in that way. And they help keep our relationship with transformational light healthy. Yeah, they help keep it healthy so that when we're operating with the transformational light of spirit, that we are really being of service in a healthy and helpful way to ourselves and to others and to the universe at large. So that's the first point I want to make about spirit guides holding space. All right, and there's 3 more to go. The second, I'm just going to take a sip of water actually, just a sec. The second point I want to make is boundaries. That beautiful word, boundaries. All right. There is specific meaning and purpose as to why your soul is choosing to have a human experience at this point in time, in this place, with this family, in this country, in this cultural, social context, in this gendered body. There is a specific meaning and purpose in that. And your soul, it carries the wisdom of how to be the light of your spirit in your body. Okay, I know I'm repeating myself and I apologize for that, but they're really important points. So the wisdom of your soul knows how to responsibly, lovingly, and with heart be the light of your spirit and have it shine and reflect through all the facets of your internal and external self, okay? So that you, as I said before, have the opportunity to reflect below as you are above. And the priestess process, this incredible journey that you are being facilitated on with the wonderful Dominique, who is so incredibly well placed to help you with this process, because she has so many incredible tools and she is genuine, she is authentic, she is true, you know. And so back to my notes just now. The priestess process supports your journey of embodiment of soul, yeah? Your soul literally has a nature. It has qualities. I commonly refer to these qualities as gifts and abilities, and I know that other people do as well. You're innate gifts and abilities, qualities. And everyone's soul is unique and everyone's gifts and abilities are unique too. And when you take a deep dive into discover your soul gifts and abilities, right, that are in your body, when you take that deep dive internally to discover your soul gifts and abilities, and bring them into all the expressions of your life, including your voice, it's possible to become distracted, all right? Of course it is. And you can be distracted by forces and influences external to you, and you can be distracted by forces and influences internal to you, right? So external forces, examples of those external forces can be cultural beliefs, they can be societal demands, they can be relationship forces, they can be infection, believe it or not, microbes, and they have a vibration, and that vibration can distract us and pull us out of our bodies so that our immune system becomes scattered, and then they get a foothold inside of us, right? So infection are also outside forces that can distract us, and also cosmic forces, okay? Between source and earth is the universe at large, and there is many different forces in there, and those forces can kind of distract us and kind of scatter us and pull us out and around as well. In terms of internal forces, the internal landscape of self, we have patterns and habits that we genetically inherit from our family through our genes, right? So our ancestors, their bodies have had experiences, and those bodies memorize how to think, act, react, create belief, respond, and develop story about those experiences. And we inherit a certain amount of that through our genes into our body. So they're the kind of internal forces that we can meet that can distract us. And also from the moment that we're born, we become conditioned, right? We accumulate conditioning, we accumulate habits, we accumulate patterns. And we accumulate them not only in this life, but we have a memory of ones that we've accumulated in other lives as well. So I call it our acquired nature, which is the one from our ancestors, and then our accumulated nature, which is the one from the life that we've lived and all the personal experiences we've had soul being a human. So those forces and influences can also distract us. And thank goodness, our spirit guide is really well versed in the specific reasons, the specific purpose and meaning as to why we have chosen to have this human life. And they know why we've decided to incarnate with some of the troubles that, you know, we face and the challenges that we face. And they know how to be able to keep us on track with our soul purpose and meaning, so that we're able to continually pull ourselves into a unity and keep focused on that process of developing our gifts and abilities, even though there will always be distraction. Okay. So by connecting with the light of your spirit guide, they will help you bring a degree of containment for soul expression in your body. They will help with a boundary, okay, with a boundary of containment, so that you can be contained in the soul expression that you have inside of yourself that is wanting to come out and make itself known in your life. And they can support you to define and bring a boundary of definition to what is your infinite, authentic nature, and what are the more finite aspects of your nature, okay? The finite aspects of your nature that are forged in the fires of influences and forces that I've just mentioned, all right? So your guides support you to have clear, protected boundaries, is really my point. All right. So the third point is discernment. All right, they spirit guides support us to be discerning. As a priestess, you are making a sacred commitment to calling forth your with your voice and other instruments, but mainly with your voice and with sound, your soul. Okay, so on the soul awakening journey, discernment is necessary. There's so much information out there, so much information for us to plug into, right? And nobody knows your way. Nobody can know your way, because everybody's spirit and soul is so unique. So, yeah, being able to find your way through that information is an offering that your spirit guide can give you. We are not expected to be perfect. Far from it. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist myself, I will admit to you, but we are not expected to be perfect. Mastery and perfection is the domain of spirit, all right? And growth, development, and learning is the domain of soul. And we are here to be a soul having a human experience, all right? So the point I want to make about discernment is please be discerning with what you're interacting with, both internally and externally. Our soul has a yearning to express itself in its fullest possible way through our body. And we also have a human identification of self, all right? I personally call this our sense of self. You don't need to go and find self. Self is everything that you need to be self is internally available to you in your body. All right. You just need to be present to perceiving it. Be present to perceiving self in all its glory, in its uncomfortable aspects, in its, enchanting, beautiful aspects, in all of its aspects. And just pop back to my notes for a second here. To perceiving what and who you are being in all moments to the best of your ability, all right? To perceiving how you're thinking, to perceiving how you're acting, to perceiving how you're reacting, to perceiving your sensations, all right? The sensations going through your body, to perceiving how you create belief, perceiving how you are developing and telling yourself the story of your life, and how you are attributing meaning to what's going on in your life. Perceiving self, we perceive self through our sense of self. And what you are perceiving is information, right? So the sensations is information, the thoughts is information, the reactions is information about, how you're being. And information is consciousness, all right? We are self-conscious beings. We are made of consciousness. And we have an individualized consciousness, all right? That is our identity. I identify different to how Dominique identifies, to how Irene identifies. We identify differently. So your sense of self is your consciousness of self. And the self informs who and what we are being. And in turn, who and what we are being informs self. So we are the product of the data that's running through us all the time. All right? We're the product of all that data going through us. We are informed, full of information, full of consciousness. And science actually tells us, and I'm a bit of a science geek, I've always been a science geek, is that science tells us that we are self-producing. We are self-determining. We are self-recreating beings. We create self from self. Our own cells create themselves. We don't have to go anywhere to make that happen. Our cells create ourselves, okay? And an example is our intestinal cells. They are replaced every 5 days. So my point is that we birth self. We produce self from within based on what we determine and or perceive self to be. So practice discernment, okay? Because what you interact with is what you bring into creation. And I'm going to be diving more deeply into that in Dominique's masterclass, I don't know what word to use, Dominique's mastermind, I found the name, Dominique's mastermind, where you have the opportunity to birth and bring forth your essence into a stunning speech, workshop or program. And we're going to explore with that, with your spirit guide, how we create, So my point is, be discerning with the energy, light, people that you are interacting with. Be be consciously proactive in your self-creation. And your spirit guide, they so want to help us with this. You know, we just got to, as I keep saying, just willingly and with humility invite them in. Life is the great leveler, right? Every time we incarnate, the body is different. Okay, no matter if it was Jesus incarnating as a human being, whether it was Buddha incarnating as a human being, whether it was your favorite, you know, like Kuan Yin, I love Kuan Yin, whether she's incarnating as a human being, they still have to learn the internal landscape of self that is unique in that incarnated body. All right, and they have to get to know its quirks. They have to join with the whole of that self, bring it into a united self. You know, not the bit I'm comfortable with and the bit I'm uncomfortable with. Bring it into a united self. And and so our spirit guides can help us with that. I'm actually currently writing a course on sense of self. I just can't communicate how essential it is. And if you're interested in that and all, that I encourage you to jump on my website and just send me a contact form, and when I'm ready with that, I'll let you know. The fourth point I want to make is, and this is a slightly quicker point than the rest, is access and orientation. Our guides help us with access and orientation. So our spirit guide supports us to be on the right axis that's necessary for us, right? So with an axis, we often see an axis is represented by a cross, okay? And ideally, we stay at the middle point of that of that axis. You know, it can extend up, it can extend down, it can extend to either side, but we stay at the middle point so that we can orient and be present to every aspect of that is created there, all right? So the axis. And our spirit guide, when we call their light into our body, they can rejig, they can rebalance, they can reorientate us back to an axis that is supportive of our personal development and our health and well-being. And our axis, our guide actually acts as a truth rudder for us. You know, imagine a ship. It's out there in the massive ocean and it's finding its way, and it has a rudder that steers, okay? So our guide creates a rudder of truth through us that helps us orientate and steer our way through this life. The light of your spirit guide can recalibrate the overall vibration of your whole energy field and assist you to navigate the truth and your truth, yeah? And find harmony between truths. They support you to access the wisdom of your soul, to navigate your thoughts, your intuition, your instinct in a meaningful and practical way, a way that's going to support you to get the juice out of life that you're looking for, yeah? And the way that's the most conducive to your own unique soul development. Our soul has a will to express itself in the full glory of through who we are. No matter how mundane or glorious the task we might be involved in at that particular time, they just have a will to really bring that through. And our spirit guides can help us orientate back to a central axis that is really true to our soul calling. So they're the 4 points I wanted to communicate to you guys today. And now I'm just going to say, okay, so what is a spirit guide? I mean, I've mentioned it a little bit, but put simply, a spirit guide is a being of light from source. And our soul and our spirits, as I've already said, are also beings of light from source. Your spirit guide is a being of light from source who knows you intimately. They've often been with you for other lifetimes as well. We usually have one spirit guide that stays with us for the entirety of our incarnation, but there are exceptions to every rule, and I've seen exceptions to this common, occurrence. Our guides have mastered the skills that we are honing and developing as a soul. They have mastered the soul qualities that we are choosing to walk from experience to wisdom in this life. They are like your personal mentor. As I've said before, much of life is a mystery, okay? Much of who and what we are is always going to remain, to one degree or another, a mystery. And our guides are our companions in the mystery of life. So our guides know who and what we are, who and what we have been, who and what we are yet to be, and who and what we have the potential to be in every given moment. And that's pretty incredible, yeah? And they offer this knowing to us with their light. And all we have to do is ask them. Just be willing and ask them with humility, to come into our world more consciously. And help us bridge the gap between source, light and the material world. Our spirit guides usually present to us in a form that is true to them and a form that has a familiarity to us. So they usually produce to us in an image that is of a human form, okay, because that's what we understand. And it's often maybe in a form of, like if it's an angel, it's, with wings and stuff like that, because that's a form that we're familiar with, right? So, and if it's other spirit guides often come to us in an image of an incarnation that they've had before, such as common American Indian or something like that. They present to us with a frequency, and that frequency has a synergy for our own soul spirit, okay? And when we tune into that frequency of our spirit guides, then that helps us gain an understanding into the greaterness of who and what we are from a soul perspective, right? And they usually present to us with a colour and a name. And that name, the tone of that name, the voicing of that name is really important. So knowing your spirit guide's name can be really useful. But as I've said, without knowing who your spirit guide is at all, you don't have to. You don't have to know who they are. You don't have to know all that information. Just know that they are there, and they are really willing and patiently encouraging us to call them into our lives to help us navigate spirit. So in Dom's upcoming mastermind, I'm actually doing a masterclass where I will be introducing you to your spirit guide, okay? And I will establish a foundational relationship with your guide, your ultimate mentor, and to help make sure to the best of your ability that you will be infusing your creation in that masterclass with the transformational light of spirit and your spirit. Yeah, so that's pretty exciting. I'm excited to be able to be doing that with people that are involved in that. If anybody is actually interested in taking it that step further and meeting their spirit guide, I'm also offering a workshop on the 27th of March, on Wednesday the 27th of March at 10:30 a.m. via Zoom, where we will have the opportunity. I will introduce it. The workshop will be capped at 6 people because I want everybody to have a really deep dive into having the opportunity to feel the light of your spirit guide. It's just such a beautiful thing to do. It really helps you gain greater clarity as to what your unique gifts and abilities are. And I will introduce you to your spirit guides in that workshop. The details of that are available on my website, which is spirit-therapies. No, hold on a minute. I've got my own website for a sec there. Spirit-based-therapies. But we can put that up at some other stage.
I'll type it in here, Trina.
Yep. And yeah, that's basically the totality of what I wanted to say to you guys today anyway. Grab a drink of water.
Is it .com? www.spirit-based-therapies.com?
It is .com, not .au. No .au on it.
Okay.
Yep.
Hopefully that's the right link. All right, I just typed it in.
Let me bring up the chat box.
So you might...
Yes, that's it. All right.
Okay. And thank you so much, Trina. Thank you. That was amazing. And it's like I guess I've been kind of exploring this idea of spirit guides for a long time, but I don't know, it's that to form an individualized relationship can feel very, I don't quite know what's going on. I think I know what's going on, but I'm not totally sure. So for you to offer this information and make it so specific and ground it in that way is very exciting. It's like, oh, okay, they'll help me with discernment. They'll help me with boundaries. They'll help me with that access point, that staying centered. They'll help me with, I guess, anything, those internal conversations, the external conversations. It was so valuable. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, and I'm just, I thought we could pop back through the chat and pop you on, and there are a couple of questions. I just wanted to clarify, did you say that the higher self is the incarnating soul piece?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's what my guides have taught me.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. And
it's like a blueprint in our body, and we have the conscious, the subconscious, the unconscious, and then we have the supraconscious. The supraconscious is where the higher self sits.
So, all right. And people just saying thank you, and they're going to listen back to it. The
amount of information I've delivered to you guys there.
It's beautiful. Thank you. We really appreciate it. And does anyone have any other questions for Trina? Well, or does anyone actually? I'm going to pop us all on gallery. Does anyone want to hop on and ask? Is anyone feeling brave? Not Linda. All right, I'm going to pop Linda on.
Good on you, Linda.
Hi, Trina. That was
Linda.
Really great. Hi, ladies. Here I am. That was really putting a lot of detail and clarity and definition around concepts that I've been working with anyway. So it rang lots of bells for me and just really helped clearly define and delineate, I guess, some of the stuff that I was working with.
Yes.
And I love how you differentiated between source and universe. Yep. And I wondered if you would mind elaborating a bit more on universe and whether there's a difference between universe and cosmos.
Okay, sure. I use the words universe, cosmos, and astral interchangeably. Okay, so I have a little spirituality 101 spiel that I give to my clients who I mentor and my clients that I do spiritual healing work with on their health and well-being. But when we look at our world as being a three-dimensional universe, I know that there are many other dimensions, but Earth is basically three-dimensional. And one dimension is Earth, and then the top dimension source, and everything in between is universe, cosmos, astral.
Mm-hmm.
And our source connection channel helps us navigate that of which is in between, right? Because I don't know if you can, is it possible to see? Can you see that picture?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is source, and this is our soul, and this is our spirit, and this is earth, and this is us as a human being, and this is everything in between. And this line down the center is our source connection channel. It anchors us into the earth, and it also anchors us into our soul spirit.
If you just lift it up a little bit as well.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. And I'm just going to take it down now. And it's really best not to wander off into the astral or the universal without being trained to do so. I do what I call astral recovery work on people. So parts of ourselves sometimes get taken so off track that they go off and they get kind of stuck in places of the universal consciousness, you know, cosmic consciousness, and stuck in the vibration that's in there. It might be a vibration of I don't like myself, right? And a person might have a part of their self-consciousness, their consciousness of their own human being stuck in that place. And my guides have taught me to be able to go out there, find that piece, wrap my kind of like wing-like things around that piece and bring that back in and anchor it back into the person's body. Yeah. Have I answered your question adequately?
Yes. Yes. No, that was great. Thank you. Can I ask one more question?
Of course, please.
Is there a difference between your spirit guide and a guardian angel? Or are they one and the same thing?
I believe there is. Okay, and I'm so glad you asked that question. So our spirit guide is the being of light who is there to mentor us on our soul development learning journey. Okay, but we also have a spirit healing team. Every single person has a spirit healing team. I have a massive spirit healing team because I'm a psychic spiritual healer and been doing it for 2 decades. But everybody has a spirit healing team, and that spirit healing team helps. Okay, let me just think for a sec to make sure I get this definition right. So our spirit guide is about helping us to in our own personal growth journey, and our spirit healer team helps us when it comes to their further assistance when it comes to the administration of light from spirit. Remember I was talking about that, how to be able to hold spirit light in order to be able to help ourselves and be and administer it to other people. Our spirit healing team helps us take that step further. Mm-hmm. And you might, and as part of your spirit healing team might be a term, you know, guardian angel.
Okay.
Yeah. And I have a little bit written about that on my website, I think, because I also offer people, I do one-on-one sessions with people to help them meet their spirit healer team, because it's actually a really great thing to do. What usually happens is 3 to 4 spirits turn up, and they, and at least, say if there's 4, then 2 of them will come and they'll merge into your body and they'll create a relationship with you to help you keep on track your administration of soul light for the purposes of your own self-healing. And then there'll be a couple of other spirits in your spirit healer team that support you in making sure that your transformational light of spirit is coming through what you're doing. And it doesn't matter whether or not you're a banker or a professional spiritual healer, whether you're a singer, or whether your day-to-day tasks are mainly taken up with domestic duties. We can all bring that transformational light of spirit into everything that we do and have it offer healing, you know, what we're doing, whether it's interacting with our animals, interacting with our kids, interacting with our clients, you know, in a corporate setting. It just brings that yummy transformational light of self into action, and they help hold and channel that for us.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions you'd like to ask? Anyone? No?
I'll just, Kerry, yep, I'll pop Kerry on.
Hi, Kerry.
Just
Yes, thank you.
trying to pop her video on.
Thank you. So brilliant. Absolutely confirming many things. Just wanted to go further into these souls. It's been assumed for many people that, or in areas that, once you've got a soul guide, whatever, they're there for life. But then to realise that there's a possibility that you don't have to have them. So who is necessarily there all the time, and can they change? Can you ask them to move on as you evolve, or are we with one? Yeah,
I think that raises a couple of really interesting points, Kat. So it's an excellent question. Thank you for asking. But I think that one thing that we start to realise after a while is that we as human beings don't get to make those choices, a lot of those choices, okay? We are, us as an individual consciousness and identity as a human being, then our job, if you like, is the business of living a human life. And who we have as a guide, that is a choice that our soul makes. Okay, in communion, our soul and our spirit make that choice in communion, but before we come here, in a way that as a human being we're not always privy to the details of. Okay, so in my understanding and the way that I've been taught from my guides is that as a human being we don't really get to say, oh, I don't want this guide anymore. I've helped people meet their spirit guides, and sometimes the spirit guide that turns up is really confronting. You know, they're like, oh God, that energy. You know, it's might be really strong, or it might have a masculine vibration to it, and they're not particularly comfortable with that. There could be many reasons as to why they're not comfortable with it, but that's the whole point, is that they can grow into relationship with them, and that spirit guide is uniquely placed for them for reasons that we might not always be privy to understanding. Yeah. So also when it comes to the fact that our spirit guides do change over sometimes, right? I've had the first spirit guide that I met was a being of light called Matthew. That was his name. Okay, and I remember I was in this class and everybody was meeting their spirit guides, and some of them were coming in on horses and galloping, and they were really like amazing, and American Indians and blah 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 blah, all this fancy stuff. I had this guy turn up and his name was Matthew, and I called him Maddie, and there was nothing, you know, amazingly exciting about him whatsoever, bless his heart. And so I was like, oh God, that's so, you know, trust me to, it confirmed for me at the time that, you know, that belief that everybody is amazing and I'm not. You know, after a while, Matthew supported me in a certain way of part of my journey, and then after a while I actually found out that Matthew, and this is a big concept that we don't have the capacity to go into today, but Matthew was actually part of me. Yeah, that was a piece of my soul that I met, and my soul was mentoring me as a spirit guide for a while, till I got to a certain point of unification and to a certain point of I guess you know, I want a better word here, but say mastery of my own inner terrain, to be able to step up into my actual spirit guide that wanted to work with me to bring through my soul qualities. And that ended up being a different being altogether. So sometimes we start off with a spirit helper, and then it develops into a spirit the true spirit guide that is actually, they're like, all right, you ready now? All right, now let's get on with it. Yeah. Does that make you?
Yeah, so it's your readiness to whichever level you're at.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
Of course, and allowing your perception as I use the word evolve, but yeah, as perception changes, you can fit in to that energy much better.
Exactly. And also keeping in mind that as human beings, we're always so keen on, and I know that you weren't doing this, but we're really keen to see, to make a hierarchy out of levels.
Oh yeah, I'm not into that, yeah.
And I know that you're not, I can totally tell that. But I just want to make that point that there's no levels better or worse than any other. They're just different aspects, you know, like I might have honed a particular skill set in another life. And I, you know, I want to bring that skill set into this life. And that skill set might have been, I'm sort of going off track here, but basically all I'm trying to say is that all levels are equal, and whether we're going more internal or bringing our light more external or whatever we're doing, we have spiritual amnesia for certain reasons, right? Where we've cut off availability to certain aspects of our soul so that we can really hone a certain skill, you know? And so, for instance, you might be really good at self-belief, but really shit at self-trust. Okay. And so what you'll do is you'll have a spiritual amnesia over your self-belief capacities, because if you don't, then as you're trying to build the quality of self-trust, you keep relying on self-belief. And they're slightly different. Yeah. So, yeah.
Thanks for clarifying it. Thanks.
Very welcome.
Thank you. So we're at 7 minutes past 12. If there are any burning last questions, then we'll just check in to see if there are. Otherwise, I will pop on to me if I can get me on here. There we go. And Trina, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I mean, it's so exciting for us because, you know, I think I posted at some point in that chat box that there's so much longing to know the world of spirit, to, you know, to have that connection, so much longing. And to have someone who can articulate a framework for that is just an absolute gift. So thank you.
Oh, welcome.
Yeah. So everyone, just so you know, if you want to do Meet Your Guides, Spirit Guides, personal masterclass with Trina, you can do that on the 27th of March, was it? There's 6 people. And for those in the mastermind, you get her anyway. So, yeah. All right. And Donna says, thank you so much, sighing and relaxing in your system. Yes. Yeah, isn't it? It's like, oh my gosh, it makes sense. There's that incredible relief. So thank you. I'm just going to pop over to you. So celebrating you, sending you lots of love, and thank you. And see you, everybody. And tonight we'll do a little bit of masculine and feminine. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
And Trina, if you stay on, you and I will stay on and just we'll just debrief for a sec.
Thank you for calling it.
Thanks everyone so much. And I'll pause the